This weekend, Chambers of Commerce and Boards of Trade from across the country will be convening in Kelowna as part of our annual meeting to talk about what are the national issues that we should be involved in, what are the concerns within the business community, and how can we move ahead to be more effective on behalf of Canadians. It is the one opportunity we have each year to debate policy, to talk about the key issues for Canada, and to look at how we as Canadians can do better. At the end of the day, we'll be discussing 50 or 60 resolutions. At any one time, we've got about 175 resolutions on the books. And as the councillors will know, if you have 175 priorities, you probably don't have any priorities. At the end of the day, the key issue for us, there's one issue. And we should look at anything the Chamber of Commerce does, and that's on the issue of competitiveness. What can we do together to help to ensure that Canadian business can be successful to the benefit of Canada as a whole, the Canadian population? I don't have to tell any of you in the business community here. You're the builders, the dreamers, the people who pay the taxes, who employ the workers, who contribute so much to the community. I don't have to tell you about the challenges you're facing in business today, about the fact that we've seen an explosion in competition that is only growing by the day and becoming more fierce. I don't have to tell you that today it's not good enough to be the best in your community or the best in your region or the best even in North America. You have to be able to compete with the very best anywhere in the world. At a time when your competitor, your customer, your supplier, your partner can be on the other side of the world but as close as a mouse click, it means we have no choice in Canada but to benchmark ourselves against the very best anywhere in the world. And it means as well that we as Canadians, if we're going to be successful, have to take an outlook on the world that thinks of Canada's role within the larger global community. There's a temptation sometimes that we have to pull back into Canada, to build walls around Canada, to say we shouldn't have to compete with the rest of the world, or to say that we're maybe better off by ourselves than we are engaging with the rest of the world. We're a small country, others are more experienced, they're more ambitious, or they're better than we are and we can't compete. We heard those arguments in North America at the time of the Canada-US Free Trade Agreement over 20 years ago. That if we took down the barriers between Canada and the United States, that Canadian businesses couldn't succeed, that we'd lose the family farm, Canadian culture would be gone. As a country, we would lose anything that we'd acquired. And yet what we saw when those barriers came down and we unleashed the creativity of the Canadian business community was not only could we compete with the best in the world, but we could win. And it's not a zero-sum game. The fact is, as a result of the free trade agreement with the US and NAFTA, all of our economies have grown. And if we're prepared to take an outgoing, confident view about Canada's role in the rest of the world, we have the potential both to contribute to the success of others and to substantially increase our success here in Canada as well. We can compete. We can do well if we have the vision and the determination to do it. But we have challenges we face as well. British Columbia is a critical part of the solution. British Columbia already performs an essential function in Canada because you face West. Nobody has to tell you about the fact that the global marketplace is changing, that increasingly activity is moving away from the developed countries into the developing world, particularly in Asia, and the pace of change is simply dramatic. The whole shape of the global economy is being remade. It's important for all Canadians to understand that and to understand the opportunities that we have. If you look at the recession and what happened, there's a lesson for us to learn from. It's a wonderful thing. You know, we do 70% of our trade with the United States. And my argument isn't that we should do less with the United States, but that we should do more with the rest of the world. That we need to open up our view of the horizon and take advantage of the opportunities. It's a wonderful thing when you're the caboose on the back of the train and it's pulling you up the mountain. But when it goes off the rails, you're following it as well, if you're hitched to it. And when we saw Canada's economy recovering more rapidly than those of the other Western industrialized countries. The reason wasn't that the United States was picking up and driving our economy. It was that the growing economic activity in Asia and the demand for Canadian resources and Canadian technology was fueling recovery in Canada and creating jobs and prosperity here. And when we look at the opportunities for the future, one of the points that was made by our former Governor of the Bank of Canada, Mark Carney, was that our focus so much at the present time on our trade is with mature economies which are growing at 1% and 2% or 3% per annum. And we're doing badly in looking at those economies that are growing at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9% per year. That if we're really going to see economic growth in Canada take place more rapidly, we need to refocus in terms of where we're looking.